piled up.
Yeah, that's what basically. I actually called too. I called the staff. Actually, Superintendent Bullet, and we live on Facebook right away now too. So, um,
Okay, all right.
I got to share the video, and we're going to start this show in about 2 minutes. But yeah, so that was interesting when I when he mentioned your facility, and he talked about how good it was.
Yeah, I'm actually having lunch with Mr. Warden Bullard tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, make sure you mention me because
I told him.
I did talk to him.
I sent. He's one of the ones I sent an email tonight about us.
Okay. So yeah, because I definitely did talk to him, and okay, let me go ahead and share this one. And actually, I'm about to switch the microphones over to the radio station, so you won't be able to hear me
All right.
until the show starts. But you'll be able to hear the show start in the background.
Okay.
So yes, let me switch the microphones and.
There ain't no way your dreams gon' see the light of day. Don't believe that you can't achieve whatever you're after. Can't be swayed by the simple mind that wanna hold you down. And in his time. WBISLP 1069, Winterville, Aden, Grifton, Southside, Greenville, North Carolina. I try to be a better man, but folks just don't understand. Try to do all I can to deal with this addiction in me. Lord, I wanna change. I can't stay the same. But the sins that in my vein is trying its best just to kill me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the UTurn Show here on Awesome Radio, WBIS 106.9 FM here in Greenville. Make sure that if you haven't already gone to the website, please go to the website, www.wbisawesomeradio.org. And you can download all of our apps on the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, and Alexa. Also, feel free to check us out here on the local TV station of GPAT TV and also on the Roku channel. And also, if you do want to call in, don't forget this is a live interactive show. So you can call in today, 252-756-2008. And also, welcome to our Facebook and YouTube audience as well. First of all, I want to just thank God for allowing us to make it through another week. And I pray that God will also allow us to make it through next week. And without further ado, I have a very esteemed guest this afternoon, this evening. Man, I met about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Very, very, very impactful man in the Department of Correctional Facilities. And I'll just introduce him, Warden Emery Morton. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
All right, that's good. And I always start off. Warden Morton is he's the warden at Carteret Correctional Facility. He has a unique perspective in dealing with rehabilitation. So that's what I wanted to get him on the show. But I also start with background. Of course, I always try to get a handle on who I'm talking to, how they were raised. So could you give our audience a little bit about where you're from, what your childhood was like, and things like that?
Well, I'm from a small town called Maysville, North Carolina. raised on a farm, lived with both parents. Um, didn't have a lot of money, but I had 3 meals a day and a roof over my head. And my father instilled in me early on the value of the dollar and how hard to work for. He enticed me on that by saying, if I bought you school clothes, I'd get a pair of brogans and overalls to go to school, or you can go work in the tobacco field and buy your own school clothes and shoes. And I chose to go work in the tobacco field.
Definitely.
He taught me early on about the bottom of the dollar and how hard to work for what you work for. And in school, I was trouble. I was pure T trouble. My parents, my school teachers, they voted me most likely to be in prison. By the time I was 18, they didn't realize that I'd be going to work in a prison. But I met a good woman who that I've always been wanting, but she never had nothing to do with me because of my evil ways.
Okay.
But it was fate. She took me in, and we got married, and she changed me. And then along come 2 babies, and I learned real quick that it wasn't about me at all. And I was working in shrimping and the fields and working at a factory. And one day a security guard told me, the prison's hiring Emory. And I said, what they do out there? I said, they pay you to fight. They go out there and pay you to work in the prison. I said, they're going to pay me to fight. Well, I went out there and applied, and I asked them, y'all going to pay me to fight? They said, yes, sir. Sign up right here. And they put me in the prison in the section that said 999. I didn't know what 999 meant until I found out it was 999 year sentences. They had me quitting the second day.
So you actually quit the second day.
I actually went to the captain and put my papers in. I said, they're going to kill me over a styrofoam cup. I didn't sign up for this, but the captain took me under the wing. I was 21 years old, and he sent me back into the pod, and I learned what respect was. And eventually I learned how to communicate effectively with people. And I went from wanting to fight to help people, and become a supervisor, and moved on up in my career. And where I'm at today, which I think God has placed me to help change people's lives for the better. And I haven't looked back.
Okay. And you mentioned God. I always ask people, what was the turning point in your life when
I've always been a believer that there is a higher power, but I was very resistant to the Lord. I've had a friend for many years and a coworker who ministered to me about Jesus. I said, I don't want to hear about Jesus. Get that out of here. I shrugged it off. I'm going to continue putting things in man's hands. And one day I was promoted to associate warden at Carteret in 2015. And sometimes God gets your attention, because in that same week I gained a promotion. I lost my house. And this is where I start my testimony about how important the Lord is in my life now.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was devastated. My kids were in panic mode. And I didn't realize how alone I was, that nobody could help me. And I went outside, and the first time I've ever called out, God help me. And the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, that entered my head and told me to call that friend that had been ministering to me about Jesus. And I called him, and I told him what happened. And brother, I had a house that night, and I had strangers that I've never met come to my house with trucks and trailers and help me move my belongings to my new house all in one night. And I said, well, who are them? They said, that's my church family who become my church family. I accepted Christ. Not only did I accept Christ, but me, my wife, and my son all got baptized together. And I'm not alone no more, because I don't have to put things in man's hands anymore. I put things in the Lord's hands. And that's a powerful testimony.
Definitely.
And it's changed my life for the better. And I know now what a friend in Jesus is and what he can do for you. And I now know why he put me at Carteret, why he got my attention. And I love to spread the message of hope and love to my staff. I love to show compassion to my offenders and show them and let the Lord guide me on what I do and what my mission to accomplish in rehabilitation, reentry, and what I like to call redemption.
Redemption. Now, because you mentioned early on in your career when we was talking earlier about how it's different. Well, it's different for you than when you started off. So explain the difference between what you saw coming in, than how you try to uh, impact the offenders or the prison system.
Well, what I saw coming in, we were warehousing people. There was very little rehabilitation. Governor Jim Hunt, and with the public support, got tough on crime. And I'm gonna tell you, in my career now and what I've been invested in and buying into rehabilitation, incarceration is not the answer. We should be managing more people on the outside. And back when I first started, it was a tough on crime rehabilitation. But what our citizens and what my coworkers and what the offenders need to realize, 95% of our offenders will be returning back to our communities. And we should make them a better person and give them hope and redemption before they return back so that they don't come back. And so now the department we have today, there is some good people in this department that have showed wisdom and realized that warehousing people don't work. It's all about rehabilitation. And that's from the governor. I can name Sarah Cobb. I can tell you Brandy Harris, our commissioner, acting commissioner. It's all about focusing on rehabilitation and having the right people in the right positions to help this along, to not only help the offenders incarcerated, but to our citizens to understand what we're doing. We can never lessen the impact of a crime to a victim. But what our citizens need to understand, with 95% going back into society, if we don't make them a better person and give them the tools and the education, the help, they're going to return to our communities unprepared. And that's what we're focused on in this department today. And there's a lot of more people with more wisdom than I have. I just had an epiphany from the Lord to say, hey, if you're going to rehabilitate, let's rehabilitate. Let's show the offenders that we do care. They're somebody's child. I don't care. I get phone calls all day long from mamas and daddies and girlfriends and mamas and babies, and that's their child. And that's my job, to keep the peace between the parents and the offender, because, see, we need to redevelop them relationships. So they're not unprepared. We need to get that father back involved in that child's life, because we don't want culture shock when they return and there's nothing there. So there, in 2011, we went to the Justice Reinvestment Act, and we have not looked back. And so we focus on rehabilitation now, and that's what I see the difference now.
He said the Justice Rehabilitation Act,
the Justice Reinvestment Act,
reinvestment.
That is using proven techniques and theories for rehabilitation.
Okay.
Everybody has an opinion, but these are proven techniques. Technology is going to be the key now for rehabilitation. We're starting with tablets inside the prison. In 2019, they did the Pocket, which most young men today have technology, and our dream is we give them the keys now, but once they leave prison, they can take that technology and they won't need us to help them. They'll have it there. I'm doing a lot of things outside the box. My CD passes, we're going to start carrying them to the DMV to get their license, ID. How powerful is that? You can stigmatize somebody saying with an inmate ID card or offender ID card, but if they can have a North Carolina identification card or a North Carolina license, that's just setting them up for more, for success. So
So your facility is geared towards people who are on the way home.
Yeah, most of our offenders here. This is a reentry facility, and it behooves us to help them return to society with all the tools and success. And I try to get them jobs, work release jobs, because we could send an offender out with a $40 gate check. And what the audits need to understand is usually we give them a gate check, $40, but I've been sending out offenders that I've helped get work release jobs with $2,500 to $5,000 in their pocket.
Okay.
Now, I want the public to understand something that may be listening. They've also paid their bills. They also pay for their stay in prison. They pay for the arrears that they've owed to the victim. They paid the courts. This is not something we give them. They work for this, and it only behooves us to give them the ability to make money. And I've had success where the employer that's hired them has hired them when they get out of prison, so they have a job. It's a win-win for the public and the department, and for the offender and his family.
All right. And so you told me before the show, and actually when I walked in, because if you didn't know, I went to speak at the prison, and I just felt like I told him before the show started, I said I felt at home, which was strange.
Yeah.
But you told me that a lot of prisoners and staff are actually trying to get into your prison, either to work or to be housed there. Why do you think that is?
I owe that all to the Lord. And I'm going to tell you, when you treat people with compassion and treat them like a person and not a number, I don't treat them like they got an Opus number. I don't treat the staff member like they're a beacon number. I treat them with compassion and kindness, because it only behooves us to. When you walk into my prison, you'll feel the spirit. When you treat staff with kindness up front, that carries to the back. And what I tell my offenders when I have time, we have to work together. This ain't Mr. Big Shot here. I run the show. I'm not God. But if the offenders and the staff and me work together in the program sections, it's a beautiful thing, because we're accomplishing our goal. There's little to no violence. Everybody has a bad day, but I listen to them. We have very little grievances at Carteret. And for the public that knows what a grievance is, say DC 410, where they can write grievances, problems. We have very little here because I listen to the men. I tell them to write to me, and sometimes they just want someone to listen to them. And it makes a difference in your environment when you treat people with kindness and show them that they're men.
Uh-huh.
They're going back home. These are going to be my neighbors. These are going to be people I see in my grocery store. These are the people we're going to see getting their money out of the bank. These men that I have at this prison are going to pass me on the street, going to Walmart. It only behooves us to treat them better than what they come in and make them better productive. And I'm going to tell you something. I've got some guys there with some skills can build you a house out there without reading blueprints. Yeah. I got some artists in here. I got some singers in here. They just need the right push and in the right way. And I get them their education. And I've had them tell me I'm not going to go to school. And I tell them what I tell them. I said, if you'll go to night school, I'll let you get a work release job. It's a win-win. I don't put roadblocks up. And that's what I teach my staff and my program staff. We're not here to put roadblocks up in front of this rehabilitation. We need to move forward with it. And
so what types of programs do y'all have?
We have the college program, the masonry program. We have our GED, our high set program. And I'm going to tell you, I got some great teachers. The inmates love them to death, the offenders. And they're like my family too. When we eat, they eat with us. We all the time take care of, we like to eat like a Baptist church out here at Carteret. And, I bought everybody ice creams today because I love them, I bought them ice creams, and I allowed the offenders, they had their Domino's pizza today, and they enjoyed themselves. They were thanking me when I was walking the yard. They appreciate that Domino's pizza. But the bottom line, the other programs we have is, our work release program is the biggest incentive and the biggest hope the fellas want, because they want a chance and opportunity to prove themselves. I got some have gave up on that I take into my prison and see my approach to rehabilitation, and it's, we can sit here and say everything. I can lead people to the water. I can't make people drink. It's not, but if I can help one, I'm doing what the Lord has put me here for.
Definitely.
And so we have a lot of programs, and a lot of things. It's just how you treat people. I tell my staff when I come into work, I tell them how much I love them. I don't tell them I just love them. I show them I love them. And I have no vacancies. I'm one of the only prisons in the nation with no vacancies. I got a 20-person waiting list. It's because of how I treat them. I don't look at them as a number. I care about their families. The inmate, the mamas will call me. My baby ain't heard from them in 3 days. I said, give me your number, man. I'm going to go check on your baby. And I'll call you back. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's just compassion and realizing what I'm here for. And I've taught my staff that, and I've taught my programs that their job is to bring down barriers and roadblocks and help these guys transition back into society and be successful. And it takes special people in this business to do that. And we have a lot of great people behind the scenes and at the top who believe in rehabilitation. And I'll say again, our leadership, Sarah Cobb, Nicole Sullivan, there's a lot of great people that's pushing down rehabilitation hard. And I'm a believer. I've seen it work.
Just 1 second. We do have a caller coming in. Caller, welcome to Awesome Radio. You on the air?
Good evening, Warden Morton. You are sounding really nice up there, young man.
Well, praise God. I love it. Praise God.
Yes, I just want you to know that you're speaking well, and you have at least 2 of your viewers that are listening to the show who support you. We are your CIT coordinators, Tiffany Herring and myself, Sharice Jackson. You might not know my face, but you definitely know my name. Keep up the good work and good job, Warden Morton.
Well, I love you, and I appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate you. Yeah, and actually, I do want to. We got about 50 seconds before our first station break, but yeah, Miss Tiffany Herring and Sharice Boyd Jackson, 2 lovely people. Just 1 second. We have another call. Welcome to Awesome Radio, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I just had to chime in. I was with Warden Morton a few months ago, and if he's listening, hey, Warden Morton, this is Miss Golly, one of your auditors.
Okay.
I want to say keep up the good work. You are phenomenal, and everywhere I go, I tell people about your philosophy of leading with love. So keep up the good work.
And I owe that all to the Lord, but I love you too.
I love you more.
Thank you, caller. And we're going to be right back here on Awesome Radio. We have to take a station break, but we're going to be right back with Warden Emery Morton. Stay tuned.
And now, Fastened Like Nails with Dr. Mark Hamby.
You can't have a theology of work until you first have a theology of beauty. Now, and here's the reason why that is. If you're working for the wrong reasons, then your work is not going to bring you the enjoyment that you need, because that's why God gave us work. He gave us work for our enjoyment, okay? So I think a theology of beauty is important because that's how God created the heavens and the earth. Everything that he did is absolutely gorgeously beautiful. The sunsets, the trees, the landscape, the colors, the texture, everything is important to God. You know, the landscape of America has changed dramatically. Cobblestone streets are no longer found. Brick sidewalks are no longer found. We've made things more easily accessible, but less beautiful. If you go to New York City, for example, you'll see skyscrapers right next to St. Paul's Cathedral there. So all of a sudden, efficiency and rooms for business and making money, that became more important than taking the time to build a building with stone, and mortar and arches. It would take a lot more effort to do that, but it would allow people to enjoy the beauty of their labor. Someone finishes building a skyscraper, construction workers, they're done building it. They go on to the next one. They leave at the end of each day seeing the work of their hands, and they're like, wow, that's beautiful. Your work matters. It needs to bring enjoyment in our lives.
You've been listening to an excerpt of Fastened Like Nails, a presentation of Lamplighter Ministries. Our mission is to make ready a people prepared for the Lord by building Christ-like character, one story at a time. To learn more about our family collection of rare books, dramatic audios, or guild programs, visit fastenedlikenails.net. That's fastenedlikenails.net.
Are you a business or organization and you're looking for a few good people to join your work staff team? Are you now hiring? Need help? Want it now? Be listed and get noticed in our awesome radio on-air classifieds. Post your now hiring job descriptions on our website and have it announced here on this radio station and get your positions filled. Sign up today at WBISAwesomeRadio.org or contact us by phone 252-756-3137. People are looking for jobs. Let us help you find those people. Get your now hiring, need help, wanted now announcements listed in our awesome radio on-air classifieds. Visit our website to learn more, WBISAwesomeRadio.org, or contact us by phone 252-756-3137.
This ain't your plan for me to die up in these streets. Oh Lord, can you help me?
And we are back here on the UTurn Show here at Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. I'm your host, Richard Taylor, here with special guest Warden Emery Morton. And also, please don't forget you can call in 252-756-2008 if you do have a question or a comment for our guest tonight. Just a few of our viewers, once again. Sharice Boyd Jackson, good show. As well, Tiffany Herring, which is the CIT trainer. Great conversation. Thank you, Tiffany. And Patrick Williams said hello, everyone as well. So the one thing I know I did want to ask you is about, I guess they call it critical intervention training or crisis intervention training. So what method do you use to de-escalate those situations? Because like you said, of course, we can try everything. And of course, you know, there is men do have conflict. So what is your approach to de-escalating situations?
We are trained to deal with and handle intense situations early on. And from crisis intervention training to, as we used to call it verbal judo. It's all how you talk and treat people inside of a prison. Respect is big in prisons, regardless if you're an offender or staff member. Effective communication is a key to handle any issue, most issues. The most dangerous, you know, sometimes we have to take a step back. We deal with people that may have mental health problems. That's what crisis intervention was mostly geared to, but it helps the staff in any environment in our profession, police, on how to basically communicate effectively and how to de-escalate situations. The days of putting your hands on people, that's over inside of prison. We don't want that to happen. That's the last resort. We want to take the moment to do a self-reflection, and sometimes spontaneous things happen. But we have geared to train our staff on how to handle crisis intervention training, and they religiously send staff to crisis intervention training. With Trillium and Greenville and and some of the ones that shouted out. They do a great job. You know, I was a little resistant myself at one time and about crisis intervention training, but like I said, the Lord guides me on a lot of things, and I realized I was wrong at the time. You know, but I've not looked back, and I believe in critical incident training, and it must continue. We must teach our staff how to effectively communicate and deal with people that are disadvantaged, and deal with people that's in a bad, dark place sometimes. Sometimes they just want someone to listen to them, and if we can get them the help they need, and we have professionals, and we have case management plans, we have guidelines, we have a profession for everything to help these people in these situations. So that's what critical incident training Like I said, it was when it first come out, it was dealing with mentally challenged people, but it also helps you in everyday life with your home, with people you interact with in the public. And you'll find most people in the prison system that works in our profession, we're very reserved, and we handle issues better than the average person because we've been trained to.
Okay.
What will bother a normal person may not bother us so much because we see it on a daily basis and our training kicks in. So that's what that's about.
What and I think I asked you now if you could say it because of departmental reasons or legal reasons. I know I asked you what was the most probably dangerous situation that you faced either as a correctional officer or as a warden. Would you say if you had
I will tell you the most dangerous situation I've ever been involved in. I was an associate warden, and we had about 28 offenders refusing to leave the yard, and it became intense. I could see the fear in my staff's face, but I looked at them and told them, I said, brothers and sisters, I love you. It's time to go to work. Nothing's going to happen. And I prayed to the Lord, and God takes care of God's people. And I was the first one to enter the gate, and I told my staff, you follow behind me. The Lord's going to protect us. I'm going to be the first one in, and I will face it off. And I went right to the leader. And the leader told me that I couldn't take them all. And I said, you're absolutely correct. I said, but you're not going to hurt my staff today. You're not going to hurt these innocent offenders, and you're not going to take my prison. And I invoked the Spirit of the Lord. I'm going to tell you, I brought the Spirit in there, and you should have seen the perplexed look on their faces, and the devil fled. And the people backed off, and they went back to their dorms. And when we debriefed, I told my staff I love them, and I bought them pizza, and I went around and thanked the innocent offenders that didn't participate. And of course, they said, Mr. Boyd, we had you back. They'd have done something.
Yeah. That's what they say, huh?
But at one time in my career, I probably would have used force or used another method, and it might have turned ugly. Sometimes we overreact or we don't do the right decisions. But like I said, I let the Lord guide me in all things, and I felt protected when I walked through that gate and I faced it. And not only did my staff, and I made sure my staff, when they went home that night, that their mind was right, because I want them to go home to their family safe. And that's what I was put here for. And I wasn't going to let them hurt my staff or the innocent offenders that were trying to do their time and go home. And that person paid for that. He paid for his actions for leading a group of offenders at my prison, and we're going to leave that at that.
Yeah.
That's the most dangerous, intense situation I've ever been there. But I prayed to the Lord about that, and it could have went another way. But I believe the power of love and God and the message of hope, and it brought me through. It's like you said, get back behind me, devil. The shield was in front of me, and that's the most dangerous, intense situation I've ever been in. But you should have seen the look of relief in my staff's face when I went out there first and told them I loved them. It just touched me.
Because that's one good characteristic of a leader. I've heard stories of war where the generals, they always sit back and send the foot soldiers in.
Well, I'm gonna tell you about Warden Morton. I'll never peek out the window of a situation like that. If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down with the ship, because I love my family, I love your family, and I love the citizens of North Carolina, and that's what I signed up for. And I was not going to let nothing happen to these citizens of Carteret County, or my staff, or these innocent offenders in that situation, and I'll do it again.
So you mentioned something about your staff going home to their families.
That's
now,
right.
There's some stressful days, is there ever a time where you quote unquote take your work home with you?
I used to in the past, and I don't do it as much anymore. Of course, I'm a warden, so I'm never off.
Yeah.
The person's always with me. However, me and my wife has an agreement. We don't talk about work. She don't talk about her work. I don't talk about my work. and we try to watch one movie together when we get home, or a TV show, eat dinner together, and decompress.
Okay.
Like I said, the staff that work in a department or any prison are subject to take things home. And that's why I always engage with my staff. If you don't engage with your staff as the warden because you've been where they've been at, you're doing a disservice to your staff. A lot of people can sit in that chair and be powerful, but it's not all about you. I tell people every day, I'm not God. Just because I'm warden don't mean I still ain't a correctional officer at heart. And I love my people, and I want them to go home to their families decompress. I make sure I check on each and every one of them every day. If you stay engaged with your staff, they will have more buy-in and they'll love you back. I make it mandatory that they get time off at this prison because I care about their family. I want that mama to go to that T-ball game. I mean, that birthday party. I want that father to see that first T-ball game.
Definitely.
And that's because I love my staff. And I got a great motivator. If my supervisors can't get my staff's time off, they don't get their time off. It's a great motivator. It works every time. It works every time.
From the bottom down.
That's right. And when you show people that you love them and they're not a number, I'm going to tell you, amazing things happen inside your prison. I got people beating down my door for a job, and I got a 20-person waiting list. I try to get them to go to, no, we want to work for you. They call me Dr. Love, by the way. That's my age.
Dr. Love. Hold on, Dr. Love. We got one more station break, and we're going to be right back. Awesome Radio 106.9 FM.
Partial funding for this program is brought to you by Mitchell's Memorial Funeral Home, 2423 E Winter Village Drive, Winterville, 252-917-4420 or 252-702-1880. Mitchell's Memorial Funeral Home is a sacred trust servicing Eastern North Carolina and is here to serve you and your family with care and dignity. 252-917-4420 or 252-702-1880. The funeral home manager is Mr. Donovan Phillips. Mitchell's, a long-standing name in the community. Thank you, Mitchell's Memorial Funeral Home of Winterville, for your support.
And we are back here on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM here in Greenville, North Carolina. I'm your host, Richard Taylor, on the UTurn Show. Just a couple of more comments before we get back to the conversation, Warden Mitchell. They have to really know that someone cares. It makes a difference. God bless you, sir. Love always win. Sir Reese Boyd Jackson says you definitely have to stay prayed up, working in the facility, and hats off to all those that treat offenders and staff as people with respect. And you were saying that they call you Dr. Love.
Yeah, Dr. Love. Because I lead with love. I manage staff with my heart, not just my mind. Same thing with offenders. It's a powerful message to in today's society with the great resignation upon us. When you engage your staff and invest with your staff, and like I said, when you treat your staff with kindness, their personalities go back to the back and treat behind the wall with kindness. And it's a win-win for the department, win-win for my prison. And the environment of peace is manifested. I can tell you when I say I let God guide me on leading staff and offenders, as far as the offenders, they know I will help them. That's the bottom line. They know I'll listen to them and take time to address their issues. And this also helps staff. I'm very proactive and I'm not reactive. I don't sit in the office. I'm always out and about. I got my coolers. I didn't tell you about my coolers.
Nah.
I call them Mr. and Mrs. Morale. And I bring them with me when I make rounds, and I pass out cold Gatorades and cold water to my staff. And I do that because I love them. I've been out there on the field when it's hot, and I'm up here in the air conditioning, and I'm looking, it's 100 degrees out there. I said, well, it's time for me to go in there and show my staff I love them. So I fill my staff, my coolers up with Gatorades, and I pass them out to my staff. And I'm going to tell you something. it means a lot to a staff member when you deliver a Gatorade. And when I make rounds, I don't talk down to them and I don't nitpick things. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to show they don't have to fear me. The purpose is to show them that I'm not afraid to walk the same hall they walk. And when they don't fear me and they respect me, we get a lot more accomplished. You can talk down to a person and you can fear mongrel a person. They only move where you tell them to move. But if you allow them to develop and allow them to be who they are and their unique personality that brings to the table, you have a wonderful multidisciplinary team that bring great ideas to the table. And it's just magnificent inside your prison because you can't do it alone. It's one team, one mission. You can't accomplish nothing by yourself. And that's what I bring to the table. And the offenders know how I am. They know I'm not going to yell at them and talk down to them. That's not my purpose. Most of the time, they line the yard up when they see me walking because they know Mr. Morton's coming. You know, it takes me about 2 hours to make my round because they swarm me.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. Like I said, when you walked me to the room where I spoke at, and they were lined up. So I mean, I can. He's not just talking. I can definitely attest to the way the guys portray him and see him. A couple of more comments. Anisha Wilkins Johnson said, yes, he does, and that goes a long way. Once again, Natasha Godley says, Warden Norton continued to be the salt at Carteret. Matthew 5:13, if I'm not mistaken, with the heart of Paul and silence. So definitely you have some people who know what you do. So it's definitely not talk. And last year, I think it was, you won the National Supervisor of the Year award.
Well, like I said, the Lord takes care of his people. And my staff got together and wrote this big thing on me to United One Voice United. And I was chosen for National Supervisor of the United States for 2021. And me and my wife was flown out to Washington, D.C., and we had the pleasure of being with Senate President Miss Fowler and Brandy Harris, my assistant commissioner at the time. And we just had a wonderful time. But I asked the committee, I was interested, and I said, I'm a small town person from North Carolina, but God's message is powerful. What caused you to choose me? And I'm going to tell you what they told me. This just manifests the Spirit of the Lord. He said everybody else's submission was technical, and yours was about love. And it was just so powerful that they kept coming back to me, and that's how they picked me. And I owe that to the Lord. Now
that was supervisors within the prison system, or just supervisors in general?
Supervisor in the prisons of the United States, from Hawaii to the West Coast to the East Coast. I was the national 24 supervisor side of a prison, and which is a great honor. But I give all the credit to the Lord.
Definitely. And when I was there, I don't know if you were there at the award ceremony in, what was it, May? But they had a slogan called "All In," right?
Praise God, all in.
So what does that mean to the person who is not staff or member of the prison administration? What does all mean?
It's a program that was developed by our very own commissioner, Mr. Todd Ishii. Was All In, and it's a campaign to get staff buy-in with staff wellness, the benefits of being paid, the raises, and basically starting to look and engage in ideas on how to make a better life for our staff. And some people felt demoralized, and we're turning a page in history with this All In campaign to show them that we do love them. And I'm going to be honest with you. Every supervisor that I've ever known cares about their people. It's all the way they display it.
Okay.
We all have our own way of telling our staff our love. I've not met a supervisor that don't care about their people. I've never met them. But I will tell you this. I carried a step further. I had a person tell me one time that they can't tell a woman that they love them. Well, I'm going to tell you on air, they're thinking with the wrong body part, because staff know the difference between spiritual love and intimate love. Okay. And when I tell my staff that I love them, they know it's spiritual. And you shouldn't be ashamed to tell the people that you work with that you love them, because you spend more time with your work family than you do with your home family sometimes. And what I have tried to develop at Carteret is the Team Carteret family.
Okay.
Most prisons, most organizations have a clique here that gets along, has a clique here. But see, it's wonderful when you have one big clique and you don't care about the color of people's skin or the gender. You care about each other as being people and human beings. And it's a wonderful thing when you have one big whole clique and we love each other. We pray together, we eat together, and it just makes your environment empowering and spiritual and uplifting, and makes the mission that you're doing more accomplished. And then when you go home good spirited. I feed my staff all the time. I believe in it. I'll look at the sky. It's blue. We'll eat hot dogs. Some chicken. We'll cook some chicken. We just love to show there's more to it than a supervisor and a worker. There's more to it than supervising offenders. It's what we do in the process to engage people, to bring the spirit of the Lord in everything we do. And that's what I try to do. And it's amazing what happens in your environment. And most people think of a prison, they see movies. But that's a lot of myths with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steve. Yeah. Prisons are very clean and very orderly. And we have reentry plans, case management plans. There is a lot of more people with more wisdom than me in this department, but I've decided to believe in it, and I've decided to be a spokesman for my leadership and in my staff, and empowering people with love, and it's just wonderful.
And what would you say, because just listening to you, I know it's a lot of job, fulfilling parts of your job, but what would you say the most fulfilling part of your job would be?
The feedback that I get from viewers like that's been on your guest show tonight, from people like you, even the compliments from the offenders, my leadership, even my friends that pick on me, and the staff that I lead, they tell me, Mr. Morton, we love you, and I say, well, I love you back, and I hold people accountable. Don't get me wrong. But I tell them, I get upset. I say, you're not loving me back. I love you, but you ain't loving me back. But it's like this. That's what feeds me. And the spiritual, in your soul, you get that spiritual cleansing. And you know that you have a purpose. And you know God, you're fulfilling God's purpose. And in return, I'm fulfilling what they hired me to do. I'm not just any warden to me. I'm the CEO of this prison. Okay. And I've been tasked to rehabilitate these subjugated people, to put them back in society, be successful. I've been put here to show these staff that I love them, and I know that's what the purpose I have, and that's what makes my day. I can get all the awards in the world, but when I hear comments like we've heard tonight on the radio show, and I get people that tell me and send me emails, it just empowers me. It just makes me feel like what I'm doing is worth it. Even the negative, I receive negative stuff, but you know what? I don't let it dictate me. If we allow negativity to dictate us, we all fail. We have to swim through negativity, and I'm good at it. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm not going to let negativity dissuade me. I'm not going to let the devil win.
Definitely. So now I know you're in contact with other supervisors, and they may not have the same viewpoint as you. How do you probably try to influence, or do you try to influence them? And
I do try to influence them in subtle ways and sometimes in direct ways. But you know what? I'm just going to say it. My now acting commissioner, Brandy Shaw Harris, made my day one day. She come in and she goes, Morton, they're not going to give you the credit, but love's contagious. I said, praise God.
Okay.
And they're starting. We got wardens across the state that are starting to do things for their staff that, and I don't need the credit for it. I don't want the credit. That's the Lord's work, But when Miss Harris told me that, it just touched my heart, because even though they might pick on me, they're doing it. They're doing things for their staff. And with the great resignation upon us, with we need to do everything we can to invest in our people, and not just invest in them. You can pay people, you can incentivize, but if you treat people bad, I don't care how much you pay them, they're not going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And the proof's in the pudding. I get picked on, but at Carteret, I have no vacancies. Continue to have no vacancies.
Yeah.
I've had them come at my door 6 feet deep. Mr. Moore, we want to work for Dr. Love, and that touches my heart. And it breaks my heart too because I can't hire them. I ain't got no vacancies. But
Oh yeah, you mean officers, correctional officers?
they'll come visit from the other prisons, and I tell them, I said, I can't hire you. I got no vacancies, but and I get phone calls all the time. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not prideful about it. I give it to the Lord, and that's the Lord in me, and that's what I give back, spiritual guidance to my people, and it just makes my day. But yeah, I do all kinds of. I'm gonna continue shouting out to my fellow brothers and sisters in supervisory roles and warden's positions. I've told my commissioners I'm not gonna stop preaching the word of love and the message of hope, and I'm gonna continue because that's what God put me here for.
And you mentioned twice the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
What is the Great Resignation?
Well, I've been on a research program for PLDP, which is Correctional Leadership Development Program. I'm class 20. Shout out to class 20.
Shout out to class 20.
Yeah, praise God. Got some great brothers and sisters in that class that's helped me along the way, and we've leaned on each other. But the Great Resignation, I was working on stay interviews and how to keep people engaged and employed. And there was a term being thrown out there during my research, the Great Resignation.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, we have a lot of younger generation that's not like when I was brought up. It was all about loyalty and about commitment and staying. Today's society and the young people we have today, they're all about technology, and it's not about loyalty. They want to know why things work. We can't. Back then, we could tell someone to get on the train and get off. That don't work well with with a young person today. And when you have other jobs like Taco Bell paying $27 an hour, why they got to deal with prison? They go make that money over there. So that's where the term Great Resignation. So how do we retain our people? And that's the biggest debate, not just for North Carolina, but the entire United States. And I'm going to tell you, I have found a way. Show you people you love them. Tell them you love them. Treat them like people, not a number. Make sure to get time off and go home and spend time with their family. When you heal that mind, soul, and body, your staff become more engaged, they have more buy-in, and they love you back. And that's what's happened at Carteret. Now, a lot of my brothers and sisters in the profession, they're in the hole in certain situations, but I'm not going to stop preaching of what I do.
Okay. And how do you think, we talked about child. How do you think a person's upbringing and childhood and family dynamic, how much of that has to do with a person ending up in, maybe incarcerated?
Well, there's been studies. There's a lot of studies been done. I mean, we have a lot of single mothers today without a father in the picture. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take anything away from a mother, because a mother loves her child wholeheartedly. They do everything they can, but that father in that life reduces the chances of incarceration without dropping out of school, getting into the wrong crowd, because like my father, all my father had to do was stomp his foot.
Exactly.
I would sit on the couch. Now, my mama, I might a little sass my mama just a little bit.
I was just telling somebody that the other day. Like, only thing my mother had to do was say, "I'm gonna tell your daddy." Yeah. That was it.
Tell my daddy I'm going to sit down somewhere. He didn't have to say that. All he had to do was stomp his boot on the floor. I knew it was time to sit down.
Yeah.
And it's important. But what we also have to realize, in our business, we're dealing with generational crime. We're dealing with, this has happened with grandpa and right on up, and social and economic reforms play a very big part in children being incarcerated. I mean, we need to invest in more social and economic reform in the communities. We need to have places for children to have father figures, replacement figures to show them that not just school, but the YMCA studies, churches involved. Our churches are dying. There's not a lot of young people going to church anymore. But it's very important for a father. Now, there is children that has made the right choices and been successful in life. We can't always blame, hey, because I'm here. It's a choice. But with a strong father in their life, it makes a very big difference. And getting back to the prisons, I'm trying to develop relationships right now with the fathers we have here with their children. We've partnered up with Dolly Parton's Book Institute. We're trying to make it less traumatic for visits.
Okay.
We're bringing in games like Uno and checkers. And so when the child comes for visit, we move them off from everyone else so they can develop them relationships, because it's very important for that father to be. We've realized it's important for that father to be in that child's life. So we're trying to drop barriers down now in the prison system and think outside the box. And I'm fixing to contact Proverbs. They're an organization where they develop fathers in their life and with the child outside, and they've sent over 80 young people to college. So it's very powerful. So that's what I think about father. I know I had a strong father in my life. Yes. He never abused me, but if I needed it, he put it on me.
Yeah. And we have a question that I want to ask you, but we got about a minute on the radio, and I want to keep it going just a little bit further to get this question out. But is there anything you got about 55 seconds that you want to say to the radio audience before we leave?
I want to say to the radio audience that I love you and I appreciate y'all out there. And I want you to know there's people that's in this business that care about people and not just the dollar or the system. You inspire me because I'm here to protect you. And I want y'all to know that. And I'll be glad one day we can see past the color of people's skin and gender, and it'd be a beautiful world. So that's what I got to say.
All right. We want to thank you, Warden Emery Morton. You've been listening to the UTurn Show here on Awesome Radio. Please don't go anywhere, Warden. But I do want to say thank you for our radio listening guests. We'll be right back with you next week here on 106.9 FM Awesome Radio at 8 p.m. on the UTurn Show. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. Y'all have a blessed week. Be safe.
Lord, I need you to smile on me. Lord, I'm pleading. Tell me where you want me.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have a question. Reese Boyd Jackson says, will you bring back the One Day with God program?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We can bring it back, but we'd have to get permission from the leadership,
Now, what would that program consist of? Because this is my first time ever hearing. I guess Reese knows.
Well, we did a One Day God event not too long ago, Prison Fellowship. During COVID, I had a bluegrass band come from the mountains, and they played all kinds of spiritual. We had over 100 offenders rededicate their life to Christ. But leadership had barriers because of COVID, so I had them outside the fence. And we had the offenders inside the fence, and that's how we did the concert. That was a One Day with God fellowship. But there's One Day with God, they bring people in, and they go around the yard and talk to people about the Lord and how important He is to have in their life. And I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, just a couple more questions. Felicia Mitchell says, awesome show. Betty Cooper says, awesome job. Hold on real quick. Let's see if we get this call. Awesome Radio. Awesome Radio. Okay, so I think it's going straight to the the radio station, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that call. But Aletta Taylor says also, thank you, sir, for your genuine concern. That's my mother. She actually worked in the Bureau of Prisons for about 20 years. So,
all right, praise God.
Let's see if I can do this thing right. Let me see. Hello? Hello? No, so that, yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Is Morton able to hear me?
Yeah, can you hear?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So, Warden Morton, I will definitely get with you to work with you about that One Day with God program.
Okay.
It allows the fathers to rekindle relationships with their children of a certain age, and they call it One Day with God. It's definitely Christian-centered and Christian-based, and it's predicated on them having little to no infractions, and they spend a full day with arts and crafts, eating lunch, playing games. There's a huge birthday cake that all the fathers and children get to cut together, representing all the birthdays that the fathers missed with their children. And at the end of this full day's program, there's a balloon releasing. And the individual adults and guardians that drop the children off, they get to see the balloons releasing on the other side of the wall. And it's very sentimental. So, Warden Morton, I will work with you to get One Day with God at your facility.
Well, praise God. I think it'd be a great idea.
Thank you. And that's Miss Boyd Jackson again. Thank you, Cerise.
All right.
You have a good night. Maybe she hung up on me. But yeah, and I guess C Days says wonderful information, hoping other facilities will take notice. And yeah, that's I mean that's what it's about, I guess. Just showing prisoners love and hope. So man, I commend you on that because it's not everybody has that attitude. And when Tiffany from the guys from Greenville CIT training, they had me to come and speak from an inmate's perspective, and I always let them know that the attitude that the officers or the administration has with the inmate, that sets the tone.
That's right.
For the day. I mean, I used to tell them, when you had some officers come in there, we love to see them. Well, okay, today is going to be a good day because she's going to be your. I mean, you're not going to run over, or you're not going to run over them, but they're going to treat you with respect. They're going to be fair. And then you have the other ones that will say, okay, well, they didn't come in with that love. They didn't come in, they didn't treat you as a human. So then you automatically say, okay, well, I'm going to give him trouble. I'm going to give him the most trouble I can without getting in trouble. And that's a testament because actually inmates will protect that officer who does his job with respect and honor and integrity. So I definitely can attest to that, that attitude. So, I definitely commend you on that.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. I mean, it's treating people like people, regardless of your situation. Because, I tell staff, I train new staff too. I'm an instructor. I tell them if the offenders at a prison want to, they can take over anytime they want to. I mean, they outnumbers 10-1. But what I do is I have the offenders and my staff realize let's work together. It's not us against them because we got a mission, especially here. I tell the offenders here, hey, look, this ain't close custody. This ain't medium custody. This is a time to get you home with money in your pocket. Let's be men. Let's treat each other like men. Let's work together. And, I think I've established that here, and it's paid off. It's paid off in the long run for my offenders and my staff. And that's why they want to come here. Not because I'm easy now. Everybody tell you, Mr. Morton, hold you accountable, hold you to fire.
Okay.
But I treat them like people, and I listen to them. And if they're right, they're right. And I tell my staff, if the inmate is right, he's right. If he's wrong, he's wrong. And I'll tell them. And a lot of them, they'll go in and tell them a bunch of blow smoke, and tell them lies. I said, don't lie to somebody because they're going to find out. And then they ain't going to believe that. Tell them the truth. And that's what I do. When the families call me or the offender asks me, I said, I'm going to tell you the truth now. It might hurt you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. You know, and that's what I think an offender that I deal with, rather for me to be truthful with them, as they say, be real with them.
Yeah.
Tell them what's what. They can deal with it a lot better than you blowing smoke up somebody and then you getting their hopes up, or you tell them a bunch of mess, or a staff member tell them something that ain't right, and then another staff member come in and get it took out on them.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that. So I don't have a lot of problems here.
So most of on average, I mean, like most of the guys who come to your facility, what they have like what, a year left maybe, or
well, I'll be honest
range from?
A lot of them has 1 to 3 years, but I do have some here with life that has earned a map. That means they have been so well behaved in prison, and I think I'm a sanctuary for maps because they keep coming here because they won't come to Miss Morton prison because I approved the maps. But it's second chances of redemption. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you've been in the system and me been around, you don't have problems out of lifers. They ain't the problem. It's them short timers that come in here and don't know how to act and got all that disrespect. And that's what I have to grab the new one. When they first get in prison, I tell them, I said, listen now. They'll say, Mr. Morton, you yelling at me. I said, no, I'm not. I'm talking loud so everybody can hear what we say. I said, because it's taboo for me to whisper to you. If they get caught with something, they're going to swear up down you told us. I tell them what they knew, you know.
Yeah.
I try to teach them disrespect gets you hurt at the right prison. You know, it's different behind the wall. So not only do I teach offenders that are new to the system on how to be, I also teach new staff how to interact, because you know that new staff member, that badge is that big and he got to kick it, and he's the top of the year. And sometimes I have to show the staff that not everything is a mountain. Some things can be a molehill. They gonna make their swole. I told them, I said, they're gonna make a little swole because they're hungry. There's nothing wrong with that. They taking care of each other. They watching TV. There's nothing. They're being peaceful. If they steal something from somebody, that's different. But I said, you're picking the wrong battle. You know, they're over there smoking drugs, or you catch them smoking. That's different. But they in there at night and done their job. They done got in the shower. You know, they relax. They might be playing spades over here, but let them alone. You know, and that's what I think, because they need to decompress too.
So you said, so it's not, because I remember swoles when I was in. So they don't supposed to make swoles now.
Well, they're not supposed to share. You know how that barter and trade thing is. But it's like this. We got to think outside the box. Most offenders inside of a pod develop relationships within relationships.
Definitely.
What they call their friends. And there's nothing wrong with breaking bread with your friends. I mean, I'm not going to go in there and shake them down because they're breaking bread with a swole, some oodle noodles and some crackers. And you know what? Like I tell staff, they have to decompress too. When it's downtime, they've done their job, or whatever they've done, they took the shower for the night, they in there cutting up, having a little good time. You know, they're not being disrupted, they laughing, they watching TV. Leave them alone. I mean, they're decompressing. I teach staff how not to start battles. You know, you walk in a block and they playing cards and you talk to that man, tell him, get up out of that chair and sweep that floor. Well, you know, pride's a dangerous creature. All that staff member did was to start something that we're going to have to clean up, whether a code gets called or he's going to have to punk out. You know, most inmates going to punk out in front of people.
Yeah.
I teach staff, hey, you can do the same thing by going, hey, man, when you get done playing cards, can you go handle that for me?
Yeah.
And the inmate gets respect. And I teach staff too. When you walk in a pod and a man disrespects you and you have to do your job, you're going to hear crickets. Ain't nobody going to say nothing because the man was wrong. But if you go in there and talk trash and talk junk, that man stands up for himself and you try to lock him up, they're going to raise Cain up in there.
Okay.
Because you come with the disrespect. And there's a way, and it's a different world behind the wall. Mm-hmm. I visit. I've never been behind the wall. I don't care what you say. Whether you've been 25 years in the business, you've never lived in there. Now I visit and go home.
Yeah.
I stay in here. It's a different culture and different world, and you have to be able to relate and understand. At the end of the day, there's two things that you can't step on. That's respect and pride. And if you learn them two things and learn to look at that person not as an inmate, But as a man, because there's stuff I've done could get locked up.
Definitely.
Didn't get caught.
I think we all have.
So that's what I teach staff. That's what I bring to the table. Now, I will tell you this. I don't allow no bully in my prison, and I don't allow no gang member to take control of my prison. If they do, they come see me for special rehabilitation. Because I'm not going to allow them to prey on the guys that are trying to go home and work. I'm not going to allow them to prey on the innocent ones because they don't need to be here. If they want to go back to that mentality, they got to go back to close custody. Mine's a transition house. I'm trying to get them. So that's what I talk about being proactive. Mr. Morton's fair. He lets the Lord guide him, but he knows how prisons work, and he knows what can start a war, and I know what can. And there's people behind the wall that have been preyed, and they have no voice, and no one cares until something happens or they check off. See, I take the bully and show them what a real bully is.
Yeah.
I head that off. And then when I get them up here and I tell them, I say, I don't care if you're a gang member. If you act like a man, I'll treat you like a man. I'll help you get work release because I would, some of them are born into it. I don't discriminate. I let them know that, hey, you're a man. Because they'll come up and say, ain't no one care about me, Miss Morton. I say, hush your mouth. Your mama cares about you and Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you tell, they've heard that for the first time in a long time that somebody cares about them. And it makes a difference in somebody's life. And then they get all excited. Miss Morton, you really care about me? I said, praise God. I said, and I'll tell you, when you go home and you become successful, you call me so you can come out here and speak to these other knuckleheads that ain't doing right. And they're like, okay, Mr. Morton. And I've seen them out in the grocery store with my wife. Mr. Morton, this is what I'm doing. I'm saying, praise God. I've never had a bad experience.
Yeah. Now, have you had guys who left and come back?
Yes. Yeah. And they shame. They
shame.
Okay. They'll come up to Miss Morton. I'm shamed. I say, hey, look, what did you not do right? Tell me what's the problem. And this is what I tell the fellas. I said, I can control you and your environment. But when you get out there in the devil's playground, there's nobody out there that can tell you no or tell you when to get up. You have to have, it's all on you sometimes. And, get them into right now, especially in their environment, housing is a big thing. I'm in consult with a reputable halfway house right now.
Okay.
A lot of these halfway houses are crime ridden. And the people are making money off the state, and they're not doing a good service, and they're putting the people in temptation. I love to eat. You put some steak and stuff I ain't supposed to eat out there, I'm gonna eat it, right? Because I'm addicted to food. Same thing. Drugs and alcohol is a dependency problem. It's an addiction, and if it gets hold of you, it can make you steal from your own mama.
Yeah,
that powerful. And so there again, I'm not here to judge them. And if I find out they got a drug problem, they come back to me, I ship them out. They say, Mr. Morton, don't ship. I said, nope, you go in the dark. I'm going to get you some chemical dependency. You're going to go through that program before I help you get work release because I got to break the cycle. And sometimes it's called tough love, But if I just let them stay back here and say, okay, they come back the third time and I don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll send them to alcohol chemical dependency or dark drug rehabilitation to break the cycle. And
y'all don't have those programs there at Carteret?
I have the AANA.
Okay.
And I have some great volunteers that come in that have been through addiction to help my guys. But I don't have the programs here per se, but we have where we can send them.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll ship them off for whatever long the program did. They'll come back. And then I'll tell them, okay, you've done your part. Now I'm going to give you a second chance and help them. And it gives them some hope.
Now, you mentioned one thing that you said the lifers sometimes come and they have MAP.
Yeah.
What is MAP?
A MAP is a mutual probation parole act. They have a life sentence, but they have met every requirement and proved themselves. I've got some that started when I was 21 years old that are here right now with me. Started when I was 21, has never had an infraction, has never been a problem. And once we send it up, they've been approved, and I sign off on it, send it to my region, and now they have a release date.
Oh, wow.
Even though it's a life sentence.
Okay. So,
and
yeah, because I was thinking.
Yeah.
because sometimes when they say life, they just like 25 years, but you mean natural life. Or
yeah, now the old law, this is what I'm talking about, the old law. The new law, when they say now, the old law, when you had a life sentence, that was 40 years.
Yeah.
When you had a natural life sentence, that was 40 years. When you had a life sentence, that could have been 25 to. Now, the new law that I referenced with Governor Jim Hunt, you had to do 86% of your time or 90-something% of your time before you were eligible. But we have this thing called MAP, which gives them a 5-year release date. They got to prove themselves for 5 more years. And if they reach that 5 years, they can be released from prison.
That's all right.
So I have about 20-something here because they send them here to me because Mr. Morton usually signs the maps. Some people won't sign them.
Oh, so it's up to you to sign them? Like you have the power?
I had the power, but I don't have the power for final approval.
Okay.
It's like I'll tell you this: I got a lot of guys here that are eligible for home leave. They get ready to go home, but they ain't seen their wife or their mama or their kids, and so I had to get a hotel. A lot of the other ones said, "Well, I ain't doing no hotel." I said, "Why not?" If they're 60 miles over the radius. So I got a hotel today that's agreed for my offenders and their families, allowed them to use the hotel. And I give them a 6-hour visit the first time, 6-hour visit the second time. They do good on that, they get a 24-hour home live.
Okay.
It gives the offenders hope. And these guys are not serial killers. These guys are ready to return back to society. And that's what I had to tell the hotel owner. I told him, I said, I'm not going to send you a serial killer. I'm not going to send you, I'm going to hurt you. These guys, we want to develop these relationships now so they can reconnect before they go home. Because it's a culture shock. Person been gone for how long? Then you just show up at my house and you back in my life telling me what to do.
Yeah.
It can cause a lot of problems. So the theory behind this is if we develop these relationships now before they go home, things become normalized,
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely awesome.
Yeah.
For somebody who realizes that, because
I had an epiphany, man. I know what I'm here for.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys that come out and, like you said, they go from one extreme to the other. Like one extreme where everything's taken care of them, and then the other extreme where everything is expected of them. Without a transition period.
Without anything, we failed them because, like you said, they've had everything given to them. Boom, and some of them don't have a strong family support group, and then we expect them to take care of themselves and not get in trouble. And then you know how hard it is for a normal person to get help, much less someone got inmate on the title.
Yeah,
they go through what. So not only this is nothing I didn't say on your show, but I gave out $63,000 in food stamps last year.
Okay.
I made sure they got food stamps. I make sure they got housing before they release from here. I don't put them under a bridge. I refuse to do that. I've been told, well, they can release. Nah, we're going to find them a halfway house. We're going to find them housing. But we ain't putting them under no bridge. Now, how you going to stick somebody on a bridge? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And what are they going to do? They're going to go throw a rock through the church when they get locked back up because they're hungry. Or they're going to rob somebody or do something crazy, and they're going to end up in the big time. And we're doing a disservice,
So with the halfway houses, is there any state, like how does someone, because actually that's been one of my interests in giving a transition house, like where guys can come for 6 months and, work, get license. Well,
let me tell you what's going on. The state has failed. Now, this is me and you talking. The state has failed.
Well, we're still live on Facebook, but we're not on the radio.
Okay. The state has failed on not realizing it's not the state's fault. But what I'm saying is we have allowed citizens to be owners of halfway houses, and we expected the halfway houses to take care of itself. And what we have discovered through talking to our brothers and sisters in community corrections, most of them are in very high poverty or high crime-ridden areas, and they're just getting money. So what I would love to see, and what I'm partnered up with with a gentleman, a pastor in Jacksonville. He was a former, I can't remember his name right now, but I got him on my phone. With some business owners, they want to build a reputable halfway house. that's not in a high crime area, that's reputable. And I would love to see the state, like me, like I go to work release, I do site checks. I would love for me and my supervisor go do site checks at the halfway house and to make sure when the state's paying these people money, that they're doing what we paying them for. So, like, let me give you the example. Bojangles wants to hire an offender. What I have to do as the warden, I have to go to Bojangles and do a site check, make sure there's where they're going to be working at. Is it safe? Do they have workers' comp insurance? What will be their hours? Who's the manager? Where the exit points are. And then I say, okay, it's approved. I want to do the same concept with halfway houses. I want to go to the halfway houses and make sure there ain't no roaches crawling around, no rats. There's doors on the hinges. We're providing these people the proper services that we're paying for. And if they're not, we're not going to use them.
So there are no site checks right now?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I believe what we've done in the past is when we release them from prison to community corrections, we've let them take it over. But there's going to be a merge in 2023. There's going to be prisons and community corrections are going to be one. And so now we have a vested interest to look out for each other and help each other. I'm going to be inviting probation parole to my meetings so they can be part of the process when we transition a person into their custody.
Okay.
Supervision. And at one point, we had our separate roles, and there's been some problems with that. So we merged together. We should be able to help each other. And I would love to see. I would love to see the thing about us doing site checks at these supposed to be reputable halfway houses or these hotels that are going to be putting our people that we turn loose, so we don't set them up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put an offender in a hotel room or a halfway house, and then you got a prostitute over here, or you got someone cooking meth or doing drugs. And I'm not saying that's happening. I'm using it as an example.
Yeah,
that's setting up my man that I've worked my butt off to get him where he needs to be, and then I'm gonna put him in that environment. That's just gonna set him up for failure.
Okay, so it's actually it's a process, I guess, to start a halfway house. Like you have to. Yeah,
it's a very big process, but if we can get them labeled as reputable, get them the recognition that reputable halfway's at, I'd rather for the state to pay them owners the money, them people the money, because they're doing a service for us, not a disservice.
Okay,
it's like what you call that. Landlord to slumlord. We don't need that. We need to do away with people that are making money off the state, not providing the services we pay them for. We're putting all this money in rehabilitation, reentry. That part, and I don't have all the answers. And I'm gonna say it's beyond my pay grade on some things. But I've worked so hard to help people reenter to society. I want them to be successful.
Mm-hmm. You definitely, I can tell you definitely have a heart for people just by listening to you.
It's a passion.
Yeah. So what would you tell a young guy who, is maybe on the wrong path, or, even, a young guy who's came in, but, they haven't totally gone to the left. They've done something that they had to pay a little penance for. What would you tell them to keep them from going, a bit further?
Well,
end up in a bad situation.
What I've realized when you talk to a young person is they'll shut you down. They'll close their ears unless they can relate. And I always tell, when I talk to the colleges and I talk to Chamber of Commerce, and I've talked to young people in trouble. I've talked to the sheriff has brought the bad kids in. I let offenders talk to them. But when you can realize, sometimes you need to listen to them. Because they've been barked at and told to do this and do that, and they become desensitized. And they need to be able to relate. I tell my testimony. I was a bad child. I didn't want to listen to my mom and daddy. I didn't want to do my grades. I didn't care about no school. Shoot, I wish I'd have got that 4-year degree now. I might have been a millionaire. I don't know. I tell them that you're not thinking about today, because you're invincible, young man, but in the future, you may have a family. You're going to want that nice car. you're gonna want money in your pocketbook, and the work hard for what you do and to believe in yourself, and let them know there's people that care. Sometimes family can't talk to family. There's people out there that can help them, and sometimes I just listen to young people, especially in the church, or just listen to them. And some of the stuff blows my mind because these young kids was very intelligent today. I mean, they were born with a cell phone.
Yeah.
I used to tell them stories. I had to go get a payphone, call my woman. My mom and dad wouldn't let me use that line unless I asked permission. And I better not stay on there too long,
Yeah.
You better be quick. But everybody's born I got grandchildren. They smart right now telling me how it works on how to do a smartphone, 2 years old. So I think if we capture the moment in time where they teeter of going the wrong way. And like I say, you can lead people, but young people are invincible. They think they're invincible.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize the consequences. And I've had a neighbor one time that had a child. He was headstrong, and she come and got me. She goes, I can't do nothing with him. She was a single mother. I went over there and got a hold of him, and I told him, and I sat down with him, and he was yes sir, no sir when I was getting a hold of him.
Yeah,
asking his mama, and that's what sometimes you need. That it don't have to be a father. Just he's that male figure, authority figure, and that's what I do.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's definitely been a pleasure, man. Once again, we're off the radio, so if you do have anything else to say to our radio, Facebook audience, C. Day says exactly a little assistance helps lower recidivism. Letta Taylor said they definitely need that hope. C. Day says respect goes a long way. That's my mother. She said, "Mama loves you." I guess it was.
But I love her too.
As much as possible. Be at peace with all men, says the Lord. Shanta says, be respectful with it. Letta Taylor says, that's right. The staff are outnumbered. Treat inmates who they are. People. Definitely. Sharice Boyd Jackson says, have a good night. I definitely want to thank everybody who listened to the show. I definitely appreciate your interaction and, your comments and everything. And I definitely, most of all, I want to thank God for my special guest warden, Emery Morton, and his wisdom. I think you've opened a lot of people's eyes to, you change the perception of people who, hold your position and, are in a position that is that change. So once again, I'll let you, if there's anything else you want to say to the audience before we end the social media feed.
I just want to tell everybody out there that I love them. And I truly do. I may not know you, but I love you. And it's very important to tell people you love them. And it helps you spiritually too. And I'm going to continue letting God guide me in my job and treating my people like people, whether the offender or a staff member.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your wisdom. And I definitely thank everyone for tuning in. We're going to be back with you next week with another guest, and we probably have Warden Morton on again with some more topics. But I want to say thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next